And for the first time in a long time back here on the Student of the Game podcast, former original panelist from the first time around, former associate from WTMY, NGSC, what else?
Blue HQ.
Blue HQ, there you go. I was trying to miss Sports Media Pass. And now Black and Gold Banneret, current Sons of UCF contributor and all-around excellent college guy. He's even so complete he wastes his time with stickball. Follows baseball. My guy, Andrew Gluchov. What's going on, man?
Oh, man, it's always great to be back with you, Kyle. We go way back.
Yes.
Enough said.
Right. Yes. Our time together could itself rent a car. I think we're at that point.
Yeah. Actually, the amount of time that we've known each other now could legally buy alcohol.
Which okay, so it can't quite rent a car, but it could buy alcohol. Okay.
Yeah, you're in that in between. Give it a couple more years and we'll be there.
Wow.
Our friendship can go buy a car or rent a car rather.
Yes. Well, no, it could buy alcohol. We're not sure if it could rent a car. We'll do that math. I think you got to be 25 or something for the proper insurance. Anyways, enough about that.
Adult problems.
Yeah, I hear all that. When it comes to dealing with adult problems and being stuck in the muck and the mire, one can claim it's tantamount to what the College Football Playoff Committee had to deal with this past weekend. I personally didn't think it was so difficult. I thought it was pretty cut and dry. I think FSU being out of the top four was the right thing. And listen, I opened the show in my intro here with my College Football Playoff Committee apology. And for all the bleep I talked throughout the weeks, I had said the first drop of the college football playoffs that this was probably clearly, in my opinion, the worst job that's been done so far as teams getting dissed, specifically Oregon and Washington and Louisville and just Penn State all being overrated and Tennessee. I could keep going. Listen, the punchline's this, Drew Gluchov. At the end of the day, we have our top four teams in Michigan, Washington, Texas, and, of course, Alabama. I know the nation at large is whining and crying about two SEC teams. What's your take on the top four, buddy?
I think they got it right. Here's the thing, and a lot of people don't understand this. The CFP's job, it's on their website, it's written black and white, is not to pick out the four most deserving teams.
Correct.
Because Florida State deserves to be there. They ran the table. They didn't lose a game. However, that's not their job. Their job is to pick out the four best teams.
Right.
And Florida State is not.
Yeah, four best teams today, to be clear. I think Mark Moses was the one that said it that way on 1560 The Fan in Melbourne there when I was talking with him on Monday about that too. I like how he worded that, the best team right now. Which I think, because when you say the best team, someone's going to go, well, the most deserving team is the best team.
That's not true at all.
Right.
Not true at all. And we know that, let's take down the way back time machine. Go back to 2017. We talk about UCF, how they got left out. They deserved it. We don't know if they were one of the best four teams, but they deserved a shot to prove it. So, you're going to have difference in arguments, but it's 2018's team even more so because their path up was stymied when Mackenzie Milton got hurt. Correct. It is written in the principles of the CFP on their website. You can go look at it and check it out, that the availability or unavailability of key players plays a role in how they rank their teams. This is the primary reason why Florida State did not get into the top four. It's because their star quarterback's hurt. If you actually look at the week-by-week rankings, you started seeing the crack going from week 12 to week 13. Week 12, he was healthy. He got hurt during the week 13 games. And Washington jumped Florida State to become that fourth team at that time. Now, the following week, Florida State got the bump because Ohio State lost. Right. However, the conference championship game matters. And they looked awful.
They did.
So they used the third string quarterback, and they're like, "Oh, Ohio State did it in 2014." Well, Ohio State also defeated Wisconsin with that third string quarterback 59-0.
Carnell Jones, I think, is the guy you're talking to.
Yes,
the record,
yes. And so, I mean, you can't really use that as a fair comparison. They did not look strong. They struggled with North Alabama for a while. They did not blow Florida out, a team that did not end up with a winning record.
You can make an argument they should have lost to Florida, Andrew Gluchov. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that it was a toss-up, and they did not look great. You're averaging about 20 points a game with Travis out. That's not top 4 worthy. Now, you're still going to get in New Year's 6. They weren't going to take that away, aside from the fact that the ACC champion automatically got into a New Year's 6 bowl game. But being 5th, I think, is the right spot for them. Alabama, beating the number 1 team, looking good doing it. Georgia, obviously a very strong team. They've been number 1 for a few weeks.
Well, and let me say this real quick. Between the two of us, I'm not going to say a homer, but I'm going to say the SEC apologist. Listen, long before NIL was a thing and you were still a student of the game panelist, I've been saying that the SEC is the best college football that money can buy. And I believe for the most part, overall, long term, that's still true. But the reason why I like Georgia at 6, even behind FSU here, is because Georgia's schedule overall compared to years past wasn't great. Is it still better than FSU's? Yes, but I know that. Well, let's just put it this way: the committee has told us that these aren't rankings in their eyes; they're standings, and it's taken a lot for them to change their mind. The only pushback I would give on the take that you have, which, by the way, Florida State and Georgia playing each other in the Orange Bowl. Yes, please. That sounds fun, but That all being said, Drew, I feel like that week 13, yes, Jordan Travis got hurt. I would make the argument that Washington still would have leapfrogged FSU at that point, because remember, they had beaten a then-ranked Oregon State in the rivalry game. I think that played a role too in Washington finally getting taken seriously by this committee.
Well, Washington was dogged all year. They defeated a top ranked Oregon team, in top 10.
As I like to say, I like twice. Yeah, they nixed Bo, and then they did it again. Exactly.
And of course, those are close games both times, because Oregon is definitely a team worthy of being a wild card, and once they open up into the top 12. If they did 12 this year, which I'd like to point out, that if the Alliance, which was the ACC, Pac-12, and Big Ten, when they formed that, if they actually voted to approve the change from of the CFP to 12 teams when they had the opportunity to do so, this would have all been a non-issue. Those 3 voted against the expansion, and as a result, we have the situation we have now. They created this mess. The ACC did their part to create this bed that they have to now lie in. So I have very little sympathy for the ACC in this case. It was not a strong conference this year. The Pac-12 was a better conference overall.
I'll agree with that.
Especially at the top end, not even, complete blowout. Well,
even in the middle, Drew, let me come in as the SEC apologist here, right? Tennessee should be worse in any consideration than Oregon State. They should be, well, not at Washington State at this point. They lost too many games, but Oregon should be getting all sorts of love. It's unfortunate that they're air quotes stuck playing a G5 team in the Liberty Flames, which we'll get to here in just a minute. But I feel like there's the Pac-12 in general is better than so many teams. And don't get me started on this ACC trash, which, first of all, I think is the actual biggest positive of the FSU team being left out. Because if they were left in, teams are going to then be programs are going to be motivated to go the Bobby Bowden scheduling route. Yeah, I said it, FSU fans, deal with it, of getting a bunch of easy teams, blowing yourself up, and looking good. One might even call it the Alabama model, depending on who you are. But at the end of the day, the SEC, even in their weakest years, are still tough teams. Like Mizzou isn't an easy out. And while some of the top of the SEC is going down, other teams have filled in nicely. Ole Miss hasn't looked bad, for example. We mentioned Mizzou. I agree with anybody, especially, Joel Klatt has dissed Tennessee plenty, and rightly so. See what I did there, Drew? But with all that in mind, I feel like there's a lot of respect that needs to be given to the Pac-12, and it's really unfortunate that the conference is falling apart now, right when it's this good. Who had this on the bingo card? I'm pretty sure I didn't, but yeah. No, I agree with you 100% that the Pac-12 was a better.
I got to step ahead on that on one, but Florida State had that kickoff game against LSU and just absolutely took it to him, just blew him out of the water
in the second half. Yeah,
you had the benefit of playing in your home state, which certainly helps. But I mean, it was they took it to him. That's a legit win. That's what really got Florida State rolling. They started as a top 10 school. They jumped into the top 5, stayed top 5 the rest of the season. They just never quite got over the hump.
That's my point. That's the ACC's fault that they never got over the hump. To FSU's credit, they were making moves and exploring, trying to get out of the conference. You know better than me about the ironclad deal that has kept the ACC together. It's not like FSU didn't make the effort to try to, get out and get ahead of that as best as they could. And I'm also well aware that there's nothing they can do about their schedule the year of. I'm not one of these join a different conference. Like you could just fry up a bunch of freaking chicken, take a bucket over to the office and be like, hey, y'all, let me in your conference. That ain't how that works, okay? Especially as much as we've covered UCF now through various forms. How many different outlets have I covered UCF with?
I haven't even gotten to my strongest form yet.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's over 9,000. No. But having to hear all that there, I'm still I could talk all this trash on Seminole fans who have said similar in the past. But yeah, I'm sympathetic to that. FSU at least tried. It's not like Florida where they're ducking UCF left and right. I said it. But FSU tried to do something, albeit late in the game as they could. They're exploring financial deals to buy out of the ACC, all this other crap. I feel like the ACC was the biggest wound, where the next best team was a completely overrated Louisville, right?
Yeah, I mean, Louisville was looked absolutely shell-shocked. They were not ready to be on the big stage. They didn't look good there.
You got shell-shocked by a third-string quarterback, Drew Gluchov. That's what I just heard you tell me.
Well, not only was it a third-string quarterback, but third-string quarterback who really didn't do anything. I mean, you look at the stats. I mean, they were absolutely atrocious. I mean,
There's one stat I need, Drew. I'm going to cut you off. There's only one stat I need.
Yeah, it's the W.
No, not even that. The combined score of the ACC championship was only 1 point more than Bama scored to beat Georgia.
Well, I mean, I can't use that as that situation, that as a gauge. I'm looking more of 8 of 21 for 55 yards.
Not exactly great either. Not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob. Yeah, that's not what gets you into the CFP. That's what gets you out of the CFP. Even if their backup quarterback Roadmaker does get to play in the bowl game, damage done. I mean, this team is it's a bad circumstance. It sucks for the team. They worked really hard all year. They ran the table and everything, but the CFP committee followed their own guidelines for once. Jinx.
I'm more than happy to buy that beer. That's fine.
But I mean, they followed their guidelines, for once, and actually, use that in the proper context, and we're able to, to not so much fully explain it, but one of the things that Boo Kerrigan, who is the head guy this year,
with a name like Boo, it has to be good.
Yeah, really. One of the things he said is the committee used how the coaches reacted to the idea of playing certain teams as a gauge. And if you saw how Michigan reacted when they saw who number 4 was, you can tell they got the better team against them. They wanted Florida State because they knew they would beat Florida State.
So
they may not beat Alabama.
Your dude Boo nailed it on that one is what it sounds like. I did see that.
there's a plus and a minus to this. The
Yeah.
plus is they used their guidelines as they were supposed to in taking Jordan Travis's injury into consideration. The
Right.
negative is it only reaffirms the fact that we've already proven over the years that the CFP is completely subjective. It has no base objective portion of, here are the numbers. This is what happens. Now that's going to change next year with the bringing in of the automatic bids for the top 5 conference champions. That I think is a major step forward. Now you're getting towards it's still a quasi playoff, but you're getting towards a playoff in the fact now there's structure in what gets you qualified. The NFL playoffs is a true playoff. There's a structure involved. You win your division, you're in. You have one of the best records here with these very established tiebreakers. You're in or you're out. There's no subjectivity whatsoever to it. College football is way too big for that. You're always going to have a degree of subjectivity.
And the selection. So I think we need some of that to prevent. No offense to FSU, but or I would have said the same about Ohio State until Carnell Jones was given the opportunity to audition to keep his team around.
Yeah, they weren't supposed to go in 2014. They weren't supposed to be the team. It was supposed to be between TCU and Baylor. What they did a disservice to themselves by not having a conference championship because they called them co-champions. It's like, okay, so which team are you throwing your weight behind? They didn't pick either.
You say co-champions, that really meant no champions. So
it's like having a 2-quarterback system. If you have a 2-quarterback system, you don't really have any quarterbacks.
Well, there are historical rarities to that, but we don't need to talk about Michael Vick and Matt Schaub right now.
Yeah, blind squirrel finds nut. Details at 11.
But listen, no, I think those are all strong takes by you overall. Excuse me. With and I guess what I'm seeing is, as you mentioned, the subjectivity. At least in the case of the top 6, I see an element of consistency as well, right? You mentioned. To an extent. Let me tell you where I'm coming from. Is if I feel like if FSU beat Louisville as bad as Texas beat Oregon State in their conference championship, that we're looking at FSU as number 4. Do you agree?
Well, again, it comes back to the injuries. If they were able to win like Texas beat Oklahoma State in theirs, but as we know from experience, Oklahoma State was kind of like a fool's gold team. They really weren't the second best team in the conference. It's just the way the rivalry game with Oklahoma played out. They were able to win that game because rivalry games, strange things happen. They won that game, but look, they got blown out by UCF 45-3.
UCF also nearly beat Oklahoma too, so maybe that's not that big an anomaly, but
45-3 is
correct.
So that's your team playing in the conference championship. I mean, it was Texas had to win comfortably to be able to jump up. If they didn't win by as one-sided as they did, I don't know if they would have jumped Florida State.
That's precisely my point.
Yeah, I don't know if they would have jumped Florida State, even though Florida State had a very unimpressive win over Louisville. The big question is what you do with Georgia, because obviously Alabama won the SEC. They beat the number 1 team. They're going to get in, at the based on the first mistake made, which was Florida State's bad outing. Then you have Georgia. What do you do with them? We've seen on multiple occasions the loser of a conference championship still sliding in. Heck, we've seen teams that don't even win their division slide in. Hence the not deserving portion. It's the best 14 portion that the CFP focuses on. But of course, there's biases involved that we all know is very well established over the years.
Let's not get started about the active athletic directors as members of the committee, who, by the way, don't watch the damn games in any volume at all.
Most of these games aren't watched. I mean, there's too many games. Like
I hear that
problem.
Here's the thing. Like, I don't mean to cut you off, but when I say that, what I mean is active athletic directors are running multiple sports at their institution. Pretend they're robots and aren't biased. They aren't, but let's pretend, right? They're spread. How are we not having full-time people whose job it already is or can become, meaning we have media dudes that are out there. I want to see Joel Klatt, for example, on the committee. I know he watches all these humpy bumpies. I know all these games are in his eyeballs, and he already does a great job analyzing him. Let's take him out to a room once a week. Maybe he does one less podcast a week. Cool, and get him out there. Guys like that. If I had a room full of Joel Klatts from different parts of the country, we have a committee, folks.
What if, Bear, let's work this out. What if there was a poll that, that like former coaches and media personnel and people who understand the game,
Drew, I know what you're trying to do.
Get together and they submit their rankings, and you aggregate it much like the Associated Press does for theirs, which, by the way, those are all media people that have to be approved.
Well, right. Hold on. Let me stop you there.
Then wait. Then let's take it a step further, Kyle. Let's then add another component where we take all the natural bias of people out of it, where we have a bunch of computers that aggregate a score.
No, stop it.
And then you throw it together. And you create a composite
on another show unscathed. You're not getting away with it here. The BSC is the whole reason we're here.
I was waiting to see if you picked up on that.
No, I picked up on it before. Okay, the difference is with a room full of Joel Klatts, I'm not having to deal with local personalities. I don't want to throw people under the bus that I see regularly, but like there's certain media, like if it's a room full of Joel Klatts and Matt Murschels, I'm happy with that. I'll put it that way. I think there's too many. I think with the biggest problem with the AP poll, such that it is there's too many chefs in the kitchen in that point. And let's just say the people who come out of Louisiana want to make every recipe Cajun. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing. By having more people, that deviation power is much smaller.
Yeah.
You have, right now there's 13 people. They have a lot of power, each on an individual person basis. Now, granted, the CFP, there's a whole thing about how they actually break down a bunch of teams into pods and stuff and to figure out who's where. It's a very convoluted process. The polls, the AP poll, the coaches poll. By the way, the coaches poll usually not voted on by the coaches. It's usually the SIDs.
Right.
So coaches are too busy, doing their job to watch the games too. Just say.
And the SIDs are too busy doing their jobs to watch all the games as well.
Right, which is why I've always taken the AP poll more seriously than the coaches poll.
Shouts to UCF's Justin Wilson, by the way, of course,
who does a yeoman's job of handling that department.
Yes.
But you have a group. The Harris poll is what I was actually kind of alluding to, where you had a bunch of all sorts of people that weren't tied to a specific job of some sort, and they were able to watch the games, vote, and much like the AP poll, use the reverse scoring system on it. 1 point for the 25th, and then 25 for the first place vote, and use that to aggregate, and you're going to find commonality. Over a span of multiple voters, you're going to find that commonality of, this team is really number one, this team's really number two. You're not going to get too many like really close splits. And at that point, since it was 4 teams at this point, I don't think you're going to get a point where 4 and 5 are there's like a weird split in it. I think you're going to see a natural coming together of where teams fall. And I think that's something that the CFP was designed to avoid and create a realm of subjectivity that you can move the goalposts when you see it fit to move the goalposts.
Right. Well, and that's my point, though. The athletic directors and they got like one professor in there, like just randomly, like
known as the professor.
No, truly not. Though that would be hilarious. No, I like the reason why I say specifically like a Joel Klatt as a good example is he's an excellent analyst. He's only really revealed his bias when talking about the Pac-12 or Colorado, which no longer exists. And these are guys that aren't famous for their home cooking. I think we need people who aren't athletic directors, that aren't running multiple sports, to have time and devotion and awareness in their sports, specifically football, obviously, to handle the business. I don't know, like what you've. I know you were trying to joke about the BSC, and the computer element was the best part. The humans mucked that up in its own right, but that's a whole other question.
Now, I just want to point out one thing. Based on the BCS projection.
See,
I was about to say BSC. You got that in my head now. So based on the BCS projection, Florida State would have been your fourth team,
and that's trash.
But again, that's where that's where the subjectivity aspect comes into play, because a computer isn't going to really know that, it doesn't account for a player being there or not being there. They see the wins, they see the losses, they see, the stat sheet, they see the scoreboard.
And the formulas didn't really, in my opinion, properly account for one conference being stronger than the other. I mean, like this time last year, before UCF jumped to the Big 12 along with Houston and Cincinnati, this time last year, the American, I can make a strong argument and probably win that the American was a better conference overall than the ACC.
Top to bottom, they were more consistent.
Correct. That's exactly
ACC had higher top end.
Sure.
Had lower bottom.
Lawrence was in the conference. At one point, the ACC would slightly edge them out at the top, 100%. But since Trevor Lawrence left, that's made the argument much easier. But
there was time when the Pac-12 was actually, you can make an argument that the Pac-12 was weaker than the ACC. Or the AAC.
Gone. That's my point, homie. This is where I'm getting to. That's where FSU, and again, like I said, to their credit, they tried to get out, but they can't yet because that's ironclad. I don't know. I think we've covered this topic awesomely. Let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and do this, because listen, as a guy who I've always enjoyed seeing you do bowl projections throughout the year, whether it's with the Sons of UCF or whatever entity you're doing it with this year, because hey, it is what it is. But let me ask you this. What you pointed out something to me that was interesting, and that was the battle for the G5 representation in the New Year's Six. Liberty, of course, will be facing Oregon in that situation, but there's some conversation as to whether or not SMU should have been let in. What say you on that?
This is another case where, I think they got it right, and a lot of people disagree. Liberty played a very soft schedule. However, SMU was dogged by one thing and one thing only: the loss to TCU. TCU, obviously national runner-up last year. They thought this was going to be a big game. TCU ended up not bowl eligible. This turned out to be a bad loss. And, SMU had two losses during the year. They also lost to Oklahoma.
Which I don't think anybody's holding them against that.
No one is. There's a reason why they're only one spot off from each other in the final CFP rankings. Liberty was, I believe, 23rd, and SMU 24th. There's a reason why they were so close. SMU got the benefit of that legit win over Tulane. They looked really good. Tulane was 22nd versus 24th with Liberty. So, Liberty, all they really had to do was just take care of business and just hold on for dear life. And they did. They won Conference USA. New Mexico State, legit team. Jerry Kill, who I've always enjoyed as a coach, back in his time in Minnesota, had some health problems, had to step away, came back. New Mexico State may be the hardest job in America in the FBS to make a winner out of. Coming into a couple of years ago, they went to two bowl games in their entire school history and never won one. They've already gone to two bowl games since he's gotten there. So, he's done, Lance Leipold did, what he did at Kansas, huge. Jerry Kill, what he did at New Mexico State.
In this conversation, I wondered if we'd hear about it.
Well, it's about these guys coming to really no-win situations and somehow winning. But I think what Jerry Kill did at New Mexico State is even bigger than what Lance Leipold did at Kansas. Kansas
nothing away from Chadwell at Liberty as well.
And we've seen what Chadwell did at Coastal Carolina as well. But Liberty, the thing with Liberty, and you have to kind of take this with a little bit of grain of salt, is they have so much more resources compared to the rest of their conference.
Right.
They actually have resources that would rival some P5 schools.
Yeah.
Versus, American, Mountain West, any of those schools. When Liberty was playing as an independent until this year, they actually tried to buy their way with an 8-figure pay. We'll cut you a check for $10 million.
Hold on, $10 million.
To Conference USA to bring them. At the time, CUSA said thanks, but no thanks because of leadership issues at the school. Those guys are gone, and Conference USA was in a desperate position. But look what happened as a result. Liberty took advantage of that. They hired away a legit coach in Jamie Chadwell after losing Hugh Freeze. I mean, look, you brought in Hugh Freeze as a Division 1A independent, as an FBS independent, and you brought in Hugh Freeze. Obviously, you got the money to pay him, and it's not a drop in the bucket for the school.
By the way,
they got money.
Hugh Freeze, one of 3 active coaches to have actually beaten Nick Saban multiple times. Of course, the other I know off the top of my head is Gus Malzahn. Do you know who the third is? I forget.
I think you have to. Are you talking about at Alabama?
Not at, but just Nick Saban. I don't know. Anyways, I know those are the 2 guys off the top of my head. I know Hugh Freeze, of course, with his time at Ole Miss, and of course Gus Malzahn in the Iron Bowl in more than one occasion there too. But yeah, the point you make about Liberty and resources is a good one. I could say where you went there too. Overall, I can't front on that. TCU did actually disappoint a lot of people. I know that Big Jim Neese of the Huddle Up podcast will enjoy hearing you acknowledge that. Bing! But let me take it here. You pointed out something else. The New Year's Six Bowls featuring 4 SEC teams in a year where it's allegedly at its weakest. What say you about that, my friend? By the way, this is despite 2 reps in the playoff. I'll lead off with this one. Tennessee was ranked too high. That's the first problem. What else do you have going on?
Well, I got to correct you. There's only 1 rep in the CFP playoff.
Excuse me. Sorry. Force of habit. I said 2, didn't I?
It's usually 2. That's why. It's usually 1 Big Ten, 2 SEC, and insert conference here. But this year, only 1. Alabama squeaking in at number 4, and then of course Georgia dropping off. This was a top-heavy conference this year.
True. That's still weird to say out loud. I know it's right. I've been spending the past 30 minutes talking about how the committee got it right, and I still blew it.
You had 1 job, Kyle. One job.
This is why you're here, Drew.
That's why we can't have nice things, and you have me instead.
Anyways, yeah, right. Yeah, you mentioned Georgia. By the way, Georgia and FSU we mentioned earlier will be doing battle. In a bowl game themselves. But yes, the 4 SEC teams in the NY6. Continue, sir.
Yeah, so Missouri had an outstanding run this year. 10-2, they had a great season. Ole Miss is the one that actually surprised me the most. Mm-hmm. Not that they did well, but for the fact that they're 11th, Oklahoma was 12th in the rankings going into championship Saturday. And they held serve, which that part didn't surprise me, but they opted to keep Ole Miss in there and have 4 SEC teams as opposed to 2 Big 12 teams. That's where a little bit of that subjectivity comes into play, because who's better, Ole Miss or Oklahoma? I'm not really sure on that one.
I know which one almost lost to UCF. That might be an issue.
Well, I mean, Ole Miss is not immune to their own,
issues, I'm sure.
Issues.
Yeah.
They struggled at times too. Who did? I mean, they won Mississippi Egg Bowl 17-7. I mean, it wasn't, that wasn't impressive. They got absolutely curb stomped by Georgia.
Well, yes, but Georgia, right?
Texas A&M, the school that does the least with the most. They squeaked with a field goal win. Arkansas, a team
now that one that makes
7-point win. Yeah. Auburn, the team that got beaten badly by New Mexico State. There's some more Jerry Kill right there. they won by a touchdown. They had some good wins like against LSU. They looked good against Tulane earlier in the year. But they also had a number. They had games that little head scratchers, and then that loss to Georgia was just an absolute dud of a game. I mean, Oklahoma may have lost a couple games, but they did not lose like that. I'm just saying they didn't lose like that. Oklahoma, losing to Texas at the very end, and a really exciting, they beat Texas in a really close game. Texas number 3. They lose a close one to Kansas, and they lose, Bedlam in a close one. Those are at least close games. And, Kansas wasn't bad. Oklahoma State, not bad. I mean, they're not as good as Georgia, but they also didn't lose 52-17, either one of those. I may have swapped those two, but since they were in that rank going into conference championship Saturday, they weren't going to move on. They weren't going to flip them after that game because nothing happened, nothing changed. So most of the standings stayed relatively stable if things, if nothing was played to impact it. But because they were 11th, they got in. That actually shifted the Big 12 bowl games, and they weren't sure where things were going to go. I thought Oklahoma was going to hold out and stay and be able to get in as that second team. As a result, they get shifted down to the Alamo Bowl, and everything just cascades down. UCF did get impacted by that, taking advantage of the SEC not having enough teams to fill all their slots because they have 9 bowl slots, and they had 9 bowl eligible teams, but they were not expecting all those. That doesn't, you look at that, you still had 3 teams that made the extra spots, the at-larges, in the New Year's Six. So now you're shorthanded. UCF took advantage of that, of getting into the Gasparilla Bowl as a result.
Yeah, no, and honestly, that's good for UCF. I mean, as much as it would have been convenient for me to cover them at the Cure Bowl with them playing in their own stadium, I think it's better for them to play a Power 5 team, and who knows, stomp possibly a Power 5 team in a bowl game.
Well, I want to throw something out there real quick, Kyle.
Sure.
People are like, I want to see UCF in the Cure Bowl. They're going to play in the whole stadium. There is almost no bowl worse from a prestige standpoint, from a payout standpoint, and a scheduling standpoint than the Cure Bowl. That would have been bad for the program. That would have been bad for the team. That would have been bad for the conference.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
One of the most important things about bowl season are the 15 extra practices teams get as a result of it.
Right.
There's not 15 days between Selection Sunday and the game. Selection Sunday was December 3rd, so you're not going to start practicing until the 4th.
That's a mighty fine point, sir.
December 16th, 12 days later, is the game. So you already lose practices. This is why I didn't want UCF in the Independence Bowl either, because they would suffer on that. However, the Cure Bowl, second lowest bowl payout in bowls of all the bowls that UCF had any chance of going into. It's viewed as a bottom barrel from a prestige standpoint. Sure. And then there are fans like, oh yeah, I want the benefit of a local game. Yeah, screw that. This is also about the players. Let them experience. The bowl game experience is part of what makes the game cool for the players. Yeah. And to just sit at home, that's not an experience. That's a regular week.
I can't put it better. Like I said, it would have been selfish. But from if you're a UCF fan, that's definitely much better that they ended up in the Gasparilla there for the second time.
At least it's not sitting at home. You at least travel somewhere they've been quite a bit. That's
listen, all we can say for the Gasparilla Bowl itself is when UCF's there, they get a lot of turnout, and
that was part of it. That was part of it. You got to balance. This is still a business. ESPN owns like half the bowl games out there. This is a business. So you're going to trade off. Okay, they may not get as many hotel rooms, as a result, because people are going to, it's a 6:30 game. Many are going to drive home, but we have a better chance of getting a high turnout at the game, make it look good on TV which is great for promoting, sponsorships and other stuff down the road. UCF has been involved in all the top games that's been done between St. Pete and the Gasparilla Bowl, because it's the same game that kind of continued over. UCF's always been the X factor in those high turnout games.
Correct. Yeah. No, I've made a similar point last week on Night Shift of the Black and Gold Banneret. Bing! So, with that in mind, in about 30 seconds or less, give me a sneaky good bowl game, sir.
Okay, you want a sneaky good bowl game? I got a sneaky good bowl game. It's going to be the Armed Forces Bowl on December 23rd, the day after UCF's Gasparilla Bowl. It is James Madison, the Dukes versus the Falcons of Air Force. James Madison, obviously still in the 2-year transition. FBS was not allowed to be bowl eligible. The only way they were able to get in was to backdoor in if there weren't enough 6-6 teams. There were 3 teams short on the 6-6. They got in. Who was it? It was I'm now having a blank. Jacksonville State was the second one, and then Minnesota was the top 5 and 7 team to get into a bowl game. So they were just a little bit short on the number of 6-6 teams. So as a result, this is a really good team. This is a top 25 team that's been relegated to a second-tier bowl. In reality, they should have won the Sun Belt East. They would have played Troy. They probably would have beaten Troy, and they would have had a legit chance of leapfrogging over Liberty because they only had the one loss, and it was a very close loss. Leapfrogging Liberty for that New Year's Six Bowl. It's why on more than one occasion they tried to get bowl eligibility approved. It was denied. But this is a sneaky game because you got 2 really good teams that are going to be on the early half of the bowl season.
I can't diss that at all. I like the sound of that. Let's keep talking football, but let's go over to the side where they get paid. Let's do some picks, Andrew Gluchov.
The side they get paid everywhere. Even high schoolers get bags of money.
I mean, over the table paid. Shut up, Drew. Anyway, leading off Thursday night, we have a game. Are you say what you will about the Steelers? And I know Kenny Pickett's injury status is a thing, but the Steelers host the Pats. I got the Steelers. I don't think that one's difficult.
Yeah, this is a gimme. I mean, we don't even know who the quarterback's going to be for New England. They've all been terrible.
There you go. Whether it's Jones or Zappi, all those quarterbacks have been crappy. Anyways, the Bucks head over to Atlanta to battle the Fraud Cons, a big one in the NFC South. Drew, who you got?
I've got Atlanta in the close one in this one. They have the benefit of playing at home, and Bijan Robinson is after the midseason lull with the headache and everything else, is finally started finding himself again. I have them in a close one. Baker Mayfield's scrappy, but I don't think they come away with this one.
As much as I don't want to pick the Fraud Cons, it's Baker Mayfield's health status that I think is an issue here. I, too, am going to take Atlanta at home and watch Danny Thompson find some small piece of joy. The Lions head to Chicago. Okay, no one's picking the Bears here, right? Okay.
Anyway. No one's picking the Bears in this one.
The Colts do battle with Jake Browning and the Cincinnati Bengals. That's an interesting matchup. Who do you have, Drew?
It's an interesting match. I like the Colts in this one. Even though Jonathan Taylor is out, you still have the Minshew effect, and you can never write the stash off. I'm just not sold on Jake Browning as an NFL quarterback. He's back up for a reason, and I think this is the end of the season for Cincinnati.
I see that and raise you this, my friend. DeForest Buckner is a bad mamma jamma. If Joe Mixon tries to run, he'll have him to deal with. That'll force Browning to throw the ball more. I, too, have the Colts on the road. The Jags head to Cleveland to battle your Browns. What's up, Drew?
Oh, I got Jacksonville in this one. Cleveland is, despite the change in quarterback, which is not guaranteed to go into next week. Well, no, they flat out said, that we don't have a starter for next week yet.
I'm not laughing because I think you're wrong. It's crazy the situation they're in.
Oh, it's I mean, that's football. I mean, this stuff happens. Joe Flacco actually looked pretty good this past week. If I was in charge, I'd let him play and let DTR learn. He's a rookie for a reason. Let him learn. However, Cleveland's team is pretty banged up. They've got bandages everywhere.
Yeah.
Jacksonville's a team that's really coming into its own. They're fun to watch. Calvin Ridley is back to his old form, making circus grabs like crazy. Trevor Lawrence is finally getting over the hump of good but not great for his team, and those two have really developed chemistry. This is just a fun team to watch. I got Jacksonville.
Yeah, no, strong take overall, Drew. I appreciate you avoiding the homerism. For me, it's about the Jags defense against whoever they put out there. I'm with you. Joe Flacco would be an upgrade, but he and Josh Allen having a meeting in that backfield, I think that would happen entirely too much. And listen, I love the Browns defense. They'll probably make Trevor Lawrence sweat. I see them forcing at least one, if not two turnovers, but the Jags still hold on in what could be a sloppy game. The Panthers head to New Orleans to battle the Saints in another NFC South crucial game. I have the Saints. I'll just say it.
Yeah, I've got the Saints. However, Derek Carr, we don't know his status. He was knocked out. Looked at before a concussion.
Protocol.
He's in the concussion protocol. We don't know what his status is just yet. Jameis Winston, would come in, however, who does Carolina have to really stand up? This has just been a rough year, up and down. And at this point, it's almost karma to just watch them continue to lose because knowing they won't have that pick.
Yeah, that's the worst part of it, ain't it? Goodness gracious. Yeah, Texans, Jets. Listen, I think the Jets have done an admirable job with the best they have, but C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. are just too good. I have the Texans. Are you wasting your time with the Jets or what?
No, Houston on this one.
Okay, cool. Rams, Ravens, sneaky important game here. What say you as Lamar Demetrius Jackson will do battle with Aaron Charles Donald there?
Baltimore was hot. They've looked really strong. They've got a 2-game lead on the rest of the AFC North, which even with Cincinnati struggling, it's still a really tough division. Mm-hmm. This is a good team despite even 9-3 is no slouch of a record, but I mean this is a really good team. I think playing at home, the Rams aren't going to have the firepower to do it. I've got the Ravens in this one.
Yeah, no, that's a fine take overall. I think I don't even have anything to add to that. I think Baltimore has too many weapons, and Aaron Donald can only do so much to carry a team from the defensive tackle spot. The Vikings head to Vegas in a game I don't care about. Drew, what do you think?
This is actually probably one of the more intriguing matchups because you have this Minnesota team with the scrappiest quarterback in the league this year in Josh Dobbs versus a Raiders team that is better again, versus their record, playing with a more spirit after the release of one Josh McDaniels. Yeah. So I actually have Las Vegas in this one with the upset. Minnesota, not a bad team, good team. Justin Jefferson's supposed to come back, but it's going to be his first game back. I think there's still going to be a little bit of rust that has to be get knocked off there. And Vegas is playing at home. You still have Devontae Adams. You still have Josh Jacobs. So you can create a lot of offense here, and these guys are playing spirited ball. So I've got the Vegas Raiders in a close upset.
Yeah, no, Antonio Pierce is brought to life, buddy. I know you might be surprised, but when it comes to this game, I'm saying Minnesota. I have Vegas as well. The Seahawks head over to San Francisco to battle the 49ers. Drew.
We know what happened the last time these two teams tangled. It wasn't pretty.
That's all about perspective, my friend.
Well, I mean, it was. Let me rephrase it. It was a one-sided affair.
Fair.
Yeah. That was in Seattle. This is now in San Francisco, and Brock Purdy is just absolutely on fire. He had a couple of hiccups, but I mean, he don't let his stats fool you. That guy runs that team, and he runs it well. And he creates a lot of matchup issues because he's very cerebral as a quarterback. He can make something out of nothing. I've got San Francisco. I think Geno Smith comes back to earth. I don't know what happened with the Dallas Cowboys defense this past week because Geno could not do any wrong. But I think that was more of an aberration than the start of a pattern.
Sure. And when it comes to defenses, I would argue that San Francisco's is significantly better with the addition of Chase Young. Geno Smith will be running for his life. I, too, have the Niners. The Bills head to Kansas City that afternoon as well. Arrowhead, the location. Yes. Who you got there, Drew?
Ooh, this one was a tough one, too. These are two teams that, in my opinion, have both underachieved. Kansas City losing Sunday night against Green Bay. That's on a team that's, has just been absolutely on fire the last few weeks, versus a Buffalo team that has just been one missed opportunity after another. I got Kansas City on this one. They're playing at home. Arrowhead's a really tough place to play. And despite Buffalo maybe being the better team on paper, top to bottom,
right?
I don't see them overcoming themselves to win this game.
Drew, I appreciate you bringing up the Green Bay game with Kansas City. I think you'd agree with me that was an Admiral Akbar game, which is to say it's a trap, because you would be looking ahead to Buffalo. And listen, while Buffalo's trailed off, the history between these two teams makes this a calendar circle as well. I think Patrick LaVon Mahomes II, as well as Travis Michael Kelsey, are stoked for this one. Who cares if Taylor Swift's in attendance or not? I have the Chefs as well in this particular matchup.
Great job. But who are the Chefs? Great googly moogly.
You're welcome, Drew. A snaky, improving Denver Bronco team heads over to LA in an AFC West battle with the Los Angeles Chargers. Drew, who you got?
I would never have thought the Denver Broncos would rip, catch fire like they did. Granted, they stumbled against Houston. That was kind of a toss-up game at the very end.
Houston's a good football team.
Houston's a good football team, and Denver was right near the doorstep to win that game. So, I mean, it became a 50-50 game at that point.
Correct.
I like Denver in this one. They're playing. They're hot. They're healthy. And the Chargers are just going backwards. I mean, they played the Patriots and just looked awful. I mean, they just look absolutely awful. They have trouble scoring touchdowns. They have to settle for field goals. They got a great kicker, but that's not going to win you the game. It's not going to win you the game. So I think Denver wins this one on the road.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you on this one. I have no faith in the Chargers at this point, and they're on track to be a firm candidate to continue to be the biggest disappointment, according to the student of the game this year, if we get to superlatives. I'm going to skip the Sunday night game and do the Monday night games because they both suck. Do you think the Dolphins are going to have any threat from the mayonnaise messiah, a.k.a. Will Levis, or are we just going bananas trying to figure out why I care about this game, Drew?
All I care about is how many fantasy points Tyreek Hill is going to get me.
Fair answer. The NFL MVP getting you fantasy points is a fun thing. See what I did there, Drew? The Packers, after doing their best Admiral Akbar to the Chiefs, are headed to East Rutherford to battle the Giants. Who cares? Packers.
Well, this is another case of it's a trap. Green Bay can't over.
Wait. That's going full circle. It's a trap for the Admirals. Okay.
Yeah, you can't let New York, who has surprised occasionally. They have found, the blind squirrel does find the nut sometimes. To make an interesting game out of this. Jordan Love is starting to find that consistency that made him, a high draft pick. But that doesn't mean he's locked in. Right. This is a team, is Aaron Jones going to play? Are they going to be, having to rely on A.J. Dillon the whole game? There's little pieces that we have to kind of figure out, but I think Green Bay still gets it together, but they can't overlook this game.
Well, I love that you made the squirrel reference, but to think that this is competitive, I believe you're nuts. I have the Green Bay Packers.
Now let's go to the game that's actually going to be good.
Correct. Well, I don't know about good. Let's just say important. You never know what's going to happen with the home team as the Eagles, after getting smashed by the 49ers. So delicious. Let's head over to Dallas and Jerry World to battle the Cowboys in a rematch. What say you there, Drew?
This is an interesting one just because of what happened this past week. You have
for the past 2 weeks, I would even argue, with the close game with Dallas too, right?
Yeah. Just in general, the Philadelphia kind of, their defense went to sleep. Dallas's defense went to sleep. So someone wake the bleep up. I mean, somebody's got to do something. And Dallas is playing at home. You you're in Jerry World. You're on national TV on Sunday night. It's kind of the spotlight. Dak Prescott has been absolutely on fire the second half of this season. I've got Dallas in a close one.
That's interesting. I'm not saying that won't happen. I just think Philadelphia is too good a bleeping football team. And much like Dallas did after they got worked by the Niners, they're gonna retool. They're gonna get right. They're gonna be pissed, basically. I believe that if this game were in Philly, they would have heard your advice, scheduled Evanescence for halftime, so someone would shout, "Wake me up," for an extended period of time to make sure the defenses woke up. I'm going to take the Eagles, but if I get that one wrong, I can see that just as likely. I respect, and maybe it's my fault for respecting center Jason Kelce too much. Maybe that's Hall of Fame, bitches. I said it.
Heights High alum Jason Kelce.
Thank you. Yes, that's your part of the world. And all that other crap.
Well, my dad went to the same school, so for that reason, I'm definitely a fan of the Kelce boys. They went to Heights High. My dad went to Heights High. Yay.
Okay. Even though they went to Cincy, that's its whole other thing. But you do appreciate Luke Fickell as a coach, so there's that. I don't know. Anyways, so that should do it for this week's edition of the NFL Picks. Drew, quality stuff for coming in. Thanks for jumping aboard. Tell the people where you can be found.
You can find me on Twitter or X.
No. You don't take drugs. You're on Twitter. You're not Drew on X. That's not a thing that happens.
That's very true. I don't even know what I would be like on that.
I'd rather not find out.
Yeah, let's not. You can find me on Twitter at StatBoyDrew. My current writings are at the sons@ucf.com. And hopefully you'll see me floating around here and there and everywhere.
Hey, listen, by the way, glad to have you aboard, buddy. I'm glad things are going well with you with the Suns and all that other stuff. Say hi to our favorite Texas Tech supporter in Trace Trilcole.
He's a Texas Tech stan.
No, I'm glad to hear that's going well up there. Thanks for jumping aboard here. And of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, not X, no drugs, as the SOTG. Find me on Instagram as the same, the SOTG, as well as on Threads as the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my writings with the Jaguar Report covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, as well as my post-game action and locker room interviews, things like that, on the 3-Point Conversion YouTube channel, as well as upcoming here, my bowl game action on the 3-Point Conversion as well. Some other bowl game action coming up too with the Black and Gold Banneret, as I will be in the building Friday, December 22nd. Apparently, I thought it was the 23rd, and I'm wrong, but that's okay. These things happen. That's why I had the bowl expert on to clean me up. But yeah, I will be there. Not sure who else will be there. I know I'll be there for the Black and Gold Banneret. So there's that, as well as covering the occasional bit of men's or women's basketball as well. Of course, check out my work also with A7B in Sports, covering the Orlando Magic. And
you do a lot.
I do a lot. Not only is there this pod that you're on here, Drew. By the way, I have the Duval Dive with my good friend Travis Holmes of Big Cat Country. Look out for that on Fridays at 11 a.m. And also re-aired on the 3-Point Conversion iHeartRadio channel, as well as oldschool101.com from 12 to 2, leading up to Sunday's action. I do things, Drew Gluchov. Oh, by the way, post-game reaction. No, wait, actually, that's going to be an away game in Cleveland. So check out the Pro Sports Fans app, where I'll be doing a watch-along with the very same Travis Holmes of the Duval Dive Live. I'll send you that link, Drew. Maybe you could come in and talk some schmack on behalf of your brownies. I don't know. But look for that. They're coming up on Sunday with the watch-along as well.
I have to pick you up on that.
Oh, right on.
I have to pick you up on that.
See, you and Weasel being in the chat will be fun to watch for me and Travis to take a look. It'll be fun to watch during the commercials. That'll be great.
Yeah, but Minnesota and Pittsburgh aren't playing.
But, hey, you say that, but Weasel does come in. He likes showing receipts and videos in the chat. It's a very entertaining time to get in there in the community. By the way, thank you for helping me prop the Pro Sports Fans app right here during this part of the wrap-up. But an honor, joy, and privilege, everyone. And until next time, class dismissed.